Yeah, folks, it's time for another Cataclysm card review. I've been saving up a couple Colossals. We were only getting one card reveal per day. Didn't feel like making videos for only one card. So now we've got three Colossals to talk about in this video, including a brand new, freshly revealed one for Priest. This is the Black Blood, because I know everybody was craving more like tar creatures. The super defensive tar creatures in Hearthstone. We don't have enough of those right now. But this is a 7 mana 4/8 Colossal +3, and it reads, after you restore health to a character, attack a random enemy minion. And then as you can see here, the bodies for the Black Blood, all three of them are exactly the same. 3 mana 1/2s. They read, at the end of your turn, restore 3 health to a random damaged friendly character. So basically here, this is a +9 in healing across all three of these. I think very often that would just be hitting face. You're unlikely to have like a damaged, minion left around. So, if you've had damage on face, these are going to hit 9 to face. But then also that means you're going to be proccing the Black Blood's ability here to attack stuff. So there's a good chance the Black Blood will also then help you clean up at least a significant chunk of the opponent's board, depending on its size or shape. But could easily clean up some 3/3s, 4/4s, chip away at some other stuff, and still give you some life gain in the process. So here's my thought, right? Pretty good, because you get like stabilization, you get healing, and you get board clear all baked into one. So you're gonna find some board states where slamming a Black Blood feels great. It's like, hey, maybe I only heal 8 even, but I'll take it, right? That's fine. As long as I get all 3 instances of this heal, that's gonna be worth it. Do keep in mind, you could also, save it till turn 9 and use like your hero power or some other cheap healing spells or whatever to get even more instances out of the Black Blood. Also keep in mind, if you do that, you could actually heal the Black Blood itself to restore its health, that it survives into more trades. You kind of would be extending its ability to hit into stuff. So anytime you get like cost discounts into play or cheap healing spells, as long as you have some extra mana, or not, if they're all discounted anyway, I guess, then you do get a little extra board clear potential here out of the Black Blood as well. And I think this is exactly the kind of minion a slower, more control Priest deck is looking for. Toss this into an Imbue Priest list, slam it for 7, heal up 9. That's going to make you feel a lot more stable in the mid game. Like, okay, yeah, now we got that push into the next stage of our deck, and we're also cleaning up the board at least a little, solving problems. And of course, like, the opponent's going to have to still want to deal with all this. This is the sort of thing they just cannot leave behind on board. So it has that sort of soft taunt aspect. If they can't kill you, which maybe is pretty hard to do after you've just healed 9 or more, then they have to start dealing with these Black Blood's bodies lest they heal you again in the future. So suddenly they're kind of in cleanup duty, probably playing from an empty or empty-ish board, which makes all of this even more frustrating. Also keep in mind, Priest has all this like hand health buff stuff we just got, so you could be pushing your Black Blood up to even higher health totals naturally in hand, so that when you slam it, maybe he has 12 or more health, increasing again the odds that he survives all of those trades on board. Maybe set up for later again, or just giving you more to heal into to proc even more times. So ultimately, yeah, I like this card a lot. I think it's very, very powerful. Any other kind of heal synergies could also be utilized to great effect here with the Black Blood's body, where suddenly you're healing extra or proccing other healing effects on top of that. Like, man, this could be a really big stabilizer style turn for Priest, which I think is going to be pretty darn strong for that class. Yeah. Okay, so now let's take a look at the Mage Legendary revealed yesterday. This is Volcanoes, a 7 mana 4/8 Elemental Colossal +2, who reads, at the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all other minions. So that is, of course, a Baron Geddon, basically, although I guess Baron Geddon did go face. And then you have the Colossal Bodies here, the Plume of Volcanoes, a 2 mana 1/4 Elemental. Whenever this takes damage, get a random fire spell. So that means add to hand, and then it's going to cost 3 less. So the Fireball inevitably added to your hand will be a 1 mana Fireball. Now, do keep in mind that is at the end of turn if procced by Volcanoes. So So you will not be able to use those spells immediately if it's from Volcanoes damaging your plumes. But, you know, you could hero power a plume or use whatever little cheap spell or thing that Mage has access to potentially fish for some cheap fire spells. You know, even do that multiple times. Just keep in mind, you've already spent roughly 7 mana on Volcanoes. Depending on other possible discounts, who knows, but probably at least 7 mana on Volcanoes. How much mana do you have left to do all that? And then ultimately, how reliable and powerful are the results for the fire spells? Like a 3-cost discount, of course, is incredible, but do keep in mind that some of the spells are naturally going to be cheap anyway. So like a 1-cost spell discounted by 3 really doesn't feel all that good. And sometimes even like an 8-cost spell or whatever discounted by 3 might also feel kind of awkward because it's too expensive. So there is probably a sweet spot for stuff that costs around 3 or 4 mana, maybe like fireballs, for instance, where you're really happy with the results. But I think sometimes it could be weird. Also, of course, fire spells, they're random, so they can come from any class, right? So it's going to be a mix of just like control tools and offensive tools. It's not going to have a reliable game plan it's playing towards. It's going to feel like just a random pile of stuff that doesn't always really synergize with what you're looking to do. So for me, what that means is Volcanoes is a pretty weak onboard play. Like that 2 damage AoE just does not really compete that well into turn 7. Like maybe occasionally you'll find some moments where it lines up all right. But I think there'll be a lot of instances where it's just like, oh, this is not doing enough. I can't afford to play this right now. And it just kind of feels stuck in hand or whatever. So that's an issue. And then like the result, the payoff here with the fire spells too, I think is going to feel pretty inconsistent and just a little bit too tough to work with. So for me, when I look at this, I'm seeing a card that doesn't have any real immediacy, doesn't drive towards a game plan. Like, you know, yeah, it's value and it's cheap value and it can make some spicy random plays here and there, but that's not really what decks are looking for typically. You know, you need your cards to do things reliable and you need to know what they're going to give you, and you need to make sure they're really impactful when they get played. That's not this card. So maybe you could toss this into kind of a grinder mage. Like, you know, we've seen the kind of Toki mage decks where you just kind of hope to find a way out of a game. And this is just another way to hope to find a way out of a game, kind of like Toki. But if mage loses access to a lot of their stall and stabilizing tools, this isn't very helpful to fill in that gap. So I think Volcanoes is really going to struggle to find a home here. I think this card could stand to be a little cheaper if it wanted to do that, or maybe its AoE could be bigger. But as it stands right now, just a little bit too unreliable. Now moving over to Druid for our final Colossal of the day. This is Wicker Fang. It is a new 6 mana 0/5 Colossal +4. And it reads, after one of Wicker Fang's legs gains stats, this gains them 2. And you can see Wicker Fang's legs here are 1 mana 0/2s that read at the end of your turn, gain +1/+1. So really effectively, those are 1/3s. You're getting 4 1/3s, and your Wicker Fang is also naturally going to gain +4/+4 as a result of that. So Wicker Fang himself would be a 4/9 that summons 4 1/3s independent of anything else. So a 6 mana 4/9 that's summoning an additional 4/12 in stats. That is a monstrous pile of health, right? Like that is just bodies and health and stuff to deal with, right? I think that actually makes this a really just solid independent threat. I think maybe more decks than you would expect could probably just kind of toss in a Wicker Fang and say like, hey, solve this problem. I think 6 is absolutely the right spot for that kind of card. You don't want to push it too late into the deck because it gets easier to solve problems as you get into a game. But at 6 mana, like that will have some windows where it slots in and the opponent's like, crap, I just can't deal with all of this. And then some of it kind of sticks around and causes problems. Now, you know, you will still want to have a deck that cares about bodies on board, that cares about probably a little bit of pressure, or maybe this is more of the top end of your deck. So that is obviously aligned for a token Druid deck. Historically, of course, we've seen lots of successful token Druid decks. This is absolutely perfect. But I'm just saying, like, any maybe kind of mid-rangey or aggressive Druid deck could still probably find a spot for Wicker Fang if that sort of thing ever exists. Now, all of that is just me talking about Wicker Fang as sort of an independent threat. I think he's already good. But then we've actually got to consider him in combination with real token synergy plays. I think the most notable of which is probably something like Quest Druid. Remember, we still have Restore the Wild, fill your board on 3 of your turns. You get the Everbloom. This is absolutely insane with Wicker Fang. It gives +2/+2 to all minions on board, which means you're giving all 4 of the legs an extra +2/+2. That's 8/8 in extra stats. But then also Wicker Fang gains those 8/8s in extra stats. So just having an Everbloom up means you can easily develop an extra 16/16 in total stats here, which I guess makes Wicker Fang like, what would that be, an 8/17, and the legs would be 5/7s? Did I get all that math right? I don't know. It's just a mountain of crazy stuff, and any kind of damage-based board clear in particular will really struggle to solve that problem going into turn 6 if you can complete your Druid quest that fast, which, you know, that's a challenge in its own right, but not impossible perhaps. But any stage of the game, really damage-based removal will struggle, and some of the like bigger, more universal removals do get removed. Remember, we losing like Brawl in the core set, so it's like some decks could really struggle to solve this problem where it's just so overwhelmingly huge that they can't really deal with it. So that's just one example of token Druid cards. All the classic, you know, any kind of wide board buff, even a singular unit buff, could still really scale up for Wicker Fang a ton if you have any mana remaining. The great thing about Everbloom is you can load it up ahead of time, and then, you know, you don't have to have extra mana on top of that. Because of course, as you get later and later into a game, if you need an 8 mana turn for Wicker Fang, maybe a little less likely it all connects. But hitting that sweet spot on 6, I think this card's really intriguing, and kind of actually snowbally too if the opponent doesn't deal with it. Even just 1 or 2 legs staying behind is still useful and interesting. So all in all, I think this card's pretty sweet for Druid. I think this does a lot of things Druid wants to do well. So I think Wicker Fang has some high promise. So all that said, let's go ahead and rate these cards from 1 to 5 stars. The Black Blood is a 4-star card. Volcanoes is a 2-star card. Wicker Fang is a 4-star card. Yeah, there you go. 2 more good playable Colossals. I do think Volcanoes is really going to struggle, though, which that's been rare. Most of the Colossals we've seen historically have seen play. I think this is probably one of the weaker Colossals that we've actually ever seen, based on, you know, my estimations anyway. Maybe it'll surprise us, but it's okay to miss one here and there. But I think Black Blood's great for what Priest wants to do, and I think Wicker Fang's great for what Druid wants to do, so both have very high potential. That said, curious to hear your thoughts on these cards down in the comments below. Thanks much as always for watching, and until next time, game on.